apostles, Peter and Andrew, James and John. One of the first things Jesus does after choosing them was that he doesn't take them to the office. Instead, he takes them home to Peter. Actually, Peter's home appears, or at least Peter's mother-in-law is there, we learn. And what does Jesus find? In-law problems. The first thing he finds when he goes to Peter's home is that there's problems with Peter's mother-in-law. She's sick. You know, there's always a problem going on at home. Somebody's always worried about it. Somebody's always working too hard. There's these obstacles that appear in home life that take away our peace. Too much work, too much weariness, too much worry. It's what I like to call the but in Christian life. You know what I mean by that. We all want to follow Jesus. We all want to pray better. We all want to be better Christians. But something gets in the way. And often it's some obstacle. It could be a different obstacle every day. It could be an illness. It could be the flu. It could be cold. Kind of makes us feel a little weary. It's the problem that Job is having in the first reading. Job is a very good man. We know that he is being very warm to God. Bad things are happening to him. And he keeps trying, he keeps turning to the Lord, and everybody is giving him all sorts of advice. You know, it's like when you get a cold, depends upon who you talk to. You know, the Germans will tell you eat potato soup, you know, and the Italians will tell you eat chicken soup. And I'm sure there's a Vietnamese remedy for a cold as well, too. We all give advice, and we want to help, of course. And Job is worried, and here's the real problem here. Job is worried that his worry is going to take away the joy of his relationship with God. And my brothers and sisters, I think that that's very, very real for us, too. Sometimes our problems and our worries, they're a real obstacle. They can take away the joy with which we actually live. Jesus comes on the scene, visits the home, and heals Peter's mother. And not only that, when people see that Jesus can take away these things, oh, what else does he confront at home? Demons! Demons in a home? Well, according to the gospel is not shocking, saying that bad spirits can get into any household. Now, those bad spirits may not be little men with horns and tails, but they could be bad attitudes, gossip, attitudes about other in-laws, problems with neighbors, problems between parents and children that make relationships very difficult. And Jesus casts out those demons. Whatever it is, let's put it this way. The devil doesn't want us to be free. The devil doesn't want us to be happy. The devil doesn't want us to be ourselves. The devil wants us to be somebody else than who we are. He enslaves us. Jesus frees us. And that's exactly what Jesus does. He takes away all the buts. He takes away all of the obstacles. He takes away all of the illness, all of the worry, all of the fear, all of the anxiety, all of the prejudice. And he frees people to be who they are. Images of God. Lovers after the Father's own heart. Free to preach the joy of the gospel. That's our basic job as Christians. Our basic job as Christians is to tell the good news and to let Jesus' presence be felt in all that we do. Get out of the way so that when we tell this good news, through us and in us, Jesus' presence can be felt. And we can't do that if we're obsessed with something. We can't do that if an addiction is holding us down, whatever that addiction may be. A substance, it could be too much television, it could be too much internet. too much of anything is usually a good definition of an addiction. If there's too much of anything that's not doing us any good, chances are that's our addiction. And Jesus wants to take away that too much bad stuff in our lives. He wants to make us free. That's the point of the gospel. Jesus comes to set us free. We can't be faithful to the Lord unless we are free to follow Jesus. God is not a bully. He doesn't come to us and scare us. He comes to us and invites us. Like a brother or sister. Like a good friend. And that's why we ourselves need that freedom. That's what Jesus gives us. Notice what else happens too. Not only does this household become free and happy, but the whole neighborhood comes. What is that telling us? That what you and I do in our households can have an effect on the entire community. And if we want to change the world, the way to begin is right at home. Right at home. That's our first mission with our parents, our children, our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, our wives. Often that's the most difficult, right? That's the most difficult. Sometimes it's much easier to get out of the house and to do some volunteer work, and that's very important. But then we come home and we're not happy. And we can't bring the joy with us to our volunteer work when we're aching inside and there's something wrong, you know. And these things work both ways too. You know, sometimes it's parents worrying about their children. And sometimes well, let me say it this way, let me ask it this way. If there is any lack of freedom in your life, if there is any oppression, where is it? And I'm sure that some children will say, oh, my parents, they're too domineering. They're too strict. They don't let me do all the things I want. And we get parents that often. And sometimes husbands and wives complain about each other. You know, some women feel that their husbands are too stern. You know? And we know that does go on. We call it spousal abuse. People hit one another, call one another bad names. It's a form of abuse and oppression. It's not good. It's not good. But it happens the other way too, because sometimes children make slaves of their parents. Mom, I want to eat now, you know, and that's not right either. Parents are not slaves. We have to respect them with honor. Sometimes if a parent gets older, a grandparent, they can't hear as well. They can't see as well. And it takes a lot of patience on our part to wait, to be patient and kind. So these are ways in which we can free one another to be better servants of the Lord, better Christians. We're also aware today, I think many of you are aware, that this is a day in which we are praying for people who are the victims of human trafficking. What that basically means is slavery in our time. There are people, mostly women, sometimes some men, young men and women, from many countries throughout the world, that for different reasons are exploited to be used as servants or sometimes sexual objects, are taken from their countries and brought to other countries against their will and literally enslaved. There may be some in our own community who call me. And it's a very, very difficult thing to confront because they're hiding in the shadows. They're living without any person to turn to. So our prayer today is that we will be aware of anybody in our midst, in our neighborhood, in our jobs, in our relationships, who may be experiencing any form of oppression or slavery, of wives or husbands that are not treating one another well, parents that are not treating their children properly, or children that are not treating their parents properly, or even the possibility that there may be some in our midst, undocumented, who have been taken from their home countries in order to be slaves. Jesus comes to set us free. Free from fear. Free from oppression. Free from anything that holds us back. Free from the but that prevents us from being joyful sons and daughters of the Lord. God is happy and wants us to be happy too. And that happiness begins at home, in our own hearts. So today, many of us are suffering from any oppression, any addiction, anything that holds us back, any fear that we can't follow the Lord. We go directly to the Lord and say, Lord, begone Satan, begone that demon, get out that unsweet, you can put it that way, and trust the presence of the Lord. Jesus is here. He's very close to us. He's in our homes. He's in our hearts. And we're going to receive him today, and the souls are literally consuming him. We're going to let him come into our hearts and souls and give us that peace that the world does not know. And let that peace of the presence of Christ within us radiate